Good morning. Good morning, and request all to settle down so that we can start our 7th GCC Summit on the theme From Leisure to Global Leadership, CA's Shaping Global Capability Centers. Friends, as you know, the importance of GCC Summit, and the whole day we will be deliberating on different aspects of GCC. At the outset, the object of this first session is building global leaders, skills, talent, and the GCC ecosystems. Different aspects of GCC will be discussed in different panels as well as solo discussions by the speakers. Friend, I request CA Biswaranjan Sutar, Regional Council Member, to please join us on the dais. CA Biswaranjan Sutar. I request Mr. Suprakash Das, Chief Financial and Operating Officer at TCG Crest. I request CA Dr. Arif Ahmed, Director, South Asian Management Technologies, FZC, on the dais. Respected Central Council Member CA Sanjeev Sanghi, CA Mayur Agarwal, Vice Chairman EIRC and Chairman ICASA, and all the learned dignitaries present over here. We have got 3 panelists in the first session. Let me introduce Mr. Suprakash Das. He is a strategic finance and operational leader with over 18 years of experience building innovation-led, high-impact institution. As CFO and COO of TCG Crest, he leads financial strategy, governance, and scalable operating models across research, technology, and global capability ecosystems within the TCG group, including TCG Digital Solutions. A board of directors across multiple organizations, he contributes to long-term strategy and institutional stewardship, renowned for converting financial complexities into strategic advantage. Suprakash derives transformation aligned with innovation, sustainability, and value creation. His global accolades includes CFO of the Year and CXO 2.0 Dubai Awards 2025. A big round of applause to the learned panelists. Suprakash Das, may I request CA Mayur Agarwal to be on the dais to facilitate our Mr. Suprakash Das. We do have another panelist on the dais, Mr. Arif Ahmed, Chartered Accountant from India and the UK. His doctorate in finance, MBA, Management Accounts from CIMA, UK, and AICPA, USA. He also has professional certification in AI and blockchain. Dr. Ahmed has over 35 years of post-qualification experience in risk management and finance. He has served various industries like banking, oil, gas, real estate, engineering, etc. He has worked in many countries in Oceania, Asia, Africa, Europe, and North America. His book, AI in Financial Decision Making, is published by Routledge, has been welcomed by professional community. His next book, Quantum Finance, due in April, is a groundbreaking work in risk management. A big round of applause for CA Dr. Arif Mehmed. Request CA Sanjeev Sanghi to please come on the dais to felicitate CA Dr. Arif Ahmed. CA Biswaranjan Sutar, member of EIRC of ICAI, FCA, EPBA, IIM, Calcutta. Disa, give me the privilege. A lot of things people do not know. He is EPBA, IIM, Kolkata. Disa, certified IFRS, certified BRSR, BCom honors, is a member of the EIRC ICAI 2529, convener of the Finance and Taxation Committee of the Indian Chamber of Commerce, Odisha, a fellow member of the ICAI and the alumnus of IIM Kolkata. He is currently a partner in the reputed assurance advisory firm, has previously worked with one of the world's leading professional service organization. He possesses rich experience in insurance, advisory, IFRS, implementation, valuation, and technology adoption, serving large corporates, PSUs, and emerging business. He is also passionate speaker, educator, contributing regularly to professional forums, corporate training programs, and academic institutions, with his work recognized at various professional platforms. Let us welcome our own C. Biswaranjan Sutar, and I will just honor our the only one sentence from my side for introduction of Mr. Biswaranjan Sutar will be that he is Hanuman of our EIRC Regional Council. Whatever, whenever there is a problem, we just call him and he get it resolved. That is his one quality. Thank you. Thank you, friends. The dais is yours, sir.
Thank you so much, Haribhaiya. I never imagined that my Monday morning will be so much flattered. And with this, a very happy morning to all of you and Jai Jagannath. With respect to GCC, if 10 years back, we were supposed to imagine GCC in a single phrase. It used to be delivery efficiency and cost effectiveness. And always this been a very back office arena to any business ecosystem and to the country. And today, when you talk about GCC, it has traveled from the effectiveness of cost and delivery efficiency to insights, foresights, and creating leaders to the business who can impact and influence the policy. And when it comes to influencing the policy, it has now taken a major center stage at any country's GDP. And this journey has evolved profoundly over many years right now, and we have brilliant minds with us as panelists, Mr. Arif Ahmed from South Asian Management, and of course Mr. Suprakash Das, who is very known figure to all of us from Crest TCG. And we'll be talking about if this transition has happened over 10 years and how we are looking at this ecosystem of GCC in coming 10 years with respect to talent, with respect to sustainability, and with respect to building this ecosystem in a sustainable way so that it stays at the center stage where it is today and we are aspiring to be tomorrow. So with this note, I request Mr. Suprakash and Mr. Arif to the floor and with their opening remarks. First, it will go with Mr. Suprakash, then I'll touch upon from Mr. Arif.
Very good morning, everybody. It's really a pleasure sitting over here in front of dignitaries, fellow colleagues, and esteemed panelists. So it's one of the very good Monday morning. Yeah, so when we talk about GCC, actually, we crossed a long road. Long back, we used to be kind of, scorekeeper. We have to follow the timeline, deliver reports. Now, GCC is no longer only to follow the timelines, to follow the reports within a deadline. Moreover, now GCCs are playing a role how we are supporting the organizations to grow in terms of providing important insights, not just about core finance area. There are a lot of other areas. Meanwhile, one thing I really want to say that, in recent McKinsey report, and there are so many reports, over telling that, the finance professional are, they invest 25% of their time for finance work. Rest of the 75% time, actually, they are spending for various other work related to an organization. So a CFO or a finance professional are no longer a scorekeeper of the organizations. They are now a strategic partner of an organization, and they are providing more insights about how to grow the business and in a various aspects. So keeping that in mind, that GCC, and we all are significantly, noticing that the GCC boom in India because of various reasons. So yeah, so we have reached a very good stage, and the future is just more exciting about the GCC. The way that we have to provide the insights, we have to scale up the organizations. So yes, in terms of GCC and in terms of finance professional, there are a lot way to go and to contribute in this segment.
Thank you so much, Mr. Suprakash. Now coming to Mr. Arif for his opening remarks.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody, and it's always a pleasure to be back home, right? This is where all it began. Whatever I have achieved is entirely because of the wonderful umbrella that the Institute has provided me, and those three small innocent alphabets after the name that has actually propelled us to a great extent. Coming back to this particular topic, I'm not very sure about whether I'm competent to talk about an opening remark. I usually love to have the last word. But never mind that. I think the focus should be on also defining the word what is competence. Because many times we consider competence as equivalent to innovation. These are two distinct issues. Innovation may be a part of improving my competence, and that need not be something very radical, need not be something, which comes with a lot of bells and whistles, but small little thing. One of the Japanese engineer had, kind of almost convinced me with the study. He said that he keeps only one pen on his desk. That ensures that the pen is in working order. He says, go to others, they keep all the pens on them, and every day they waste 45 seconds to 1 minute searching for which one has the ink. He said, I keep only one. So I'm obliged to keep it in working order. Competence. Saving time, small little time, but sending the person sitting across the table a wonderful sense of a very, very competent professional who has kept his resources well. Let's move on to the details of it, and I think that would be my opening take on this.
Thank you so much, sir. Now, Mr. Suprakash, you've been in a field where you have transformed the financial function, the finance function in particular, where many of us work, and which predominantly used to be a compliance function and assurance function. And you have transformed that function within the organization where you work from a compliance to a strategic value added to the board. So what advice or the insight you would like to throw to our participants that in a GCC, when the mindset has shifted from a delivery to insight, what are the key aspects we should keep it in our mind so that we can create a value GCC within the ecosystem?
Yeah, very good question. See, if we go back and see when we used to prepare a traditional MIS, there is, we celebrate, yeah, this month, I have provided the MIS within a certain deadline. But what if it's whatever happened in the last month or a quarter? But it's just a number. So what additional informations I'm giving to the boards or I'm giving to my stakeholders is how numbers can narrate the story. So, and a finance professional who is having all the data, having all the numbers, they're in a very, very good position to to tell the board or the stakeholders that what is going on within the organizations. So we have to be very curious about the business, and over a period of time, the finance professional not just spending in finance department, they're roaming across into the different verticals to understand the business. That is the most important, because we have to understand the business, how and how that business is functioning in a different verticals. So by doing that, we can conclude and we can give more insight to the board members, so that appropriate call can be taken in advance, and strategies can be prepared before disruptions. So these are the thing, and one of the most thing that I already mentioned, that curiosity is one of the most important thing, and how we are using our time. So long back, a company which is using an 80% time to closing their books, they automated their system, and they are they're closing their books in 20% and of time, but they have not laid off any staff. So what they have done, they have trained their staff into pricing strategies, M&A M&A specialist, and a business analyst. And through that, they are now spending most of their time to analyze the business, to come up with the solutions that can help the business to grow. For example, right now we are into a very, very interesting era where we have AI. I don't know that AI bubble will burst or not, but we have an advantage of using this AI, agentic AI, and various IoT. So one of the very exciting example is that if you go to any organizations which is having a lot of critical infrastructure of machines and so many things which produce a lot of data in terms of deep tech research organizations. Now there are an IoT device which can help to tell you the surge in the power, okay, of a particular equipment. Now that information can be used by the operation team to see that the quality of the machines, okay, and also that can help you to report the CO2, the basic your ESG reportings and so on. Now, how those informations can be used by a finance professionals? Now, I have the data of the usage, power usage of the machine, okay. Now, I can see whether my machines are properly using or not. And by tagging the revenue numbers generated from the particular machine, if it is directly related to the to the production, to the revenue stream, so I can come up with how the machine is utilizing, how the resource with the machines is utilizing properly or not. So I can derive a lot of informations by using AI, IoT, and many other applications. I can save my time. We can invest more time into analyze those informations and give more solutions. So yes, this is how the finance and various operations can come together and to provide inputs for the growth of an organization.
Okay. If I have picked one word from the entire segment of answers of yours, it is the curiosity, which evolves over a period of time. And that's what drives every day. And when you talk about the theme of GCC, it is from ledgers to global leadership. And curiosity also brings in one element of risk, because it is on the leaders whether out of curiosity they should not venture into something which is very risky. And today in a global which is VUCA, full of vulnerability, uncertainty, and ambiguity with decision making, of course nowadays the anchors have started saying this VUCA is translated into Trump. But when I see Mr. Arif, with your background with Moody's, Flinch, and World Bank, where you have read the pulse of risk, and when you talk about leadership, the risk also can be mitigated with the credibility within the leadership. How you measure that risk, and what advice will give to the young leaders who are here, that how they can protect themselves in venturing into a riskier area, and they can still be a leader who captures the pulses of the ecosystem and grow.
Thank you. A critical aspect here. Now, let me first start by putting in a spoiler. Risk, we define it as a problem which requires a solution. I'm sorry, you cannot solve it. Risk is a fact we have to live with. So the first change in our mindset that we need to bring in is not to treat it as a problem, but to treat it as a regular aspect of my business, of all my decision making, which I have to live with. Sometime I will call it correctly, sometime I will not be calling it correctly. That brings in an understanding of the genesis of risk and why risk is critical. So whenever some of my clients says, I would like to mitigate the risk, usually I ask him back, do you realize that would bring down your profit? So he said, how come? I said, on one hand, you are so very confident that if the risk is greater, you will earn greater profit. And now you want to put in an area and you want to say that, no, I want to be very lightweight, but I want to fight the heavyweight category of boxing. No, that cannot be done. So you've got to first decide, very commonly we use the word your risk appetite and others, a clear understanding of it. And then see that whether the decisions that you are taking or the opportunities that you have, they fall within that bracket. If they fall within your risk appetite bracket, why on the God's earth I would like to reduce it? Because that's what is giving me money. Because I am that one crazy chap who went up a 20 feet up podium and dived into the water, and that's what got me the Olympics medal. If I would like to stand on the side of the pool and jump into the water, it will give me a good health, but not the Olympics medal. So the question is, are you in a position to suffer that plunge? Can you, if you do not enter the water correctly, would you be able to come back and get up on the podium again? That's your risk appetite. Your ability to continue the business, so define how much of risk could you take. Then you mitigate. There are theories of mitigation, various parts of mitigation, but mitigation is not your objective. Mitigation is a tool to attain your other objective of getting the maximum amount of return within the risk you'd like to take. And there are various tools for achieving that. None of them are very difficult. What is difficult is the understanding. So, Vishwanjan, I often tell my audience who use the word controlling the risk, and you know, I feel it's almost sacrilegious. I've been working on this field when there was no textbook of risk. People used to ask me, what's risk management? It was a passion. I was working on that, creating tools at that point of time. And people talk about controlling the risk, and I still have not understood. If you can control something, how can it be a risk? By definition, risk is something which you cannot control. I hope this would give in a thought process in all of your mind. What you can control is your exposure. What you can try to control is the loss that you may suffer if that risk actually comes and crystallizes. But risk cannot be controlled. My favorite example is By carrying an umbrella, you don't stop rain coming down. The rain will be there, you protect yourself. That's it.
If you don't mind, I just want to add one thing. You know, being a finance professional, how much risk or curiosity you can address. So, you know, being a finance or operations head, if one of my team member come to me and say, you know, I have a very good idea, let's work on that. So, and we always have budget constraints. Okay, that is part and parcel of our life. But we always encourage curiosity at a lab scale. Okay, you done a pilot program. Okay, prove your concepts, and when we take it to the market, we'll then think number of times when there is a massive hardware commitments, where there is a massive data protection commitments. So this is similar to how AWS is here today. So how AWS started? It started from a lab scale prototyping. So it takes a lot of time for Amazon. They give a go ahead for AWS experiment, and when they've decided to launch it, they have done number of calculations. They spend a lot of time, years or many years, to decide the huge amount of infrastructure in data centers, in CAPEX commitments, in data protection, so on. So yes, if the risk, if the curiosity, we have to embrace the curiosity. We have to, invest on the curiosity at a lab scale, at a prototyping. But when it comes to implement at a industry level, then yes, we have to think multiple times. We have to tick all our parameters, and then we can approve that.
Very interesting. From curiosity to we have reached to risk. And before I say, and once I say this, I believe Bibek Bhai's subtle smile will glow up. In audit and assurance, there is something called SA 315, risk assessment and understanding the environment. So when you talk about risk, do you feel that the cross-functioning within the finance and those who want to build up a GCC and they want to travel down from the compliance to the leadership, the cross-function itself will help to understand the ecosystem better? And if yes, how they would like to cross-function within the team itself and within the leader, the person who is building GCC will help?
Yeah, so absolutely, without doing a cross-functionals. So there are a couple of terms that are, very aligned nowadays. Is the cross-functional training, rescaling, and cross-scaling, and so many things. So without having a cross-functional experience, you cannot understand that what are the other divisions are doing. So for my finance person, it has to be, in GCC environment also, it has to be a process. There has to be a process where they can, they have the exposure to interact with the cross-functional team, to embrace themselves, to learn what the other department is doing, what are the constraints for the other departments. So many large organizations, what they are doing, they are sending their finance professional for a subsequent training, for spending a good amount of time in a different vertical, so that different departments, be it IT, be it other operations, so that they can understand the problem where the finance have a crossing the path, how they can solve the problem, how they can expedite the decision-making process. Again, I keep on saying one thing, that today energy economics is very important, because energy compounds, people stay in an organization where energy compounds, not where energy leakages. So when I have a cross-functional exposure, I can understand, how fast a decision on approval I have to give, so that we can better utilize the energy. So yes, cross-functional is very important. We have seen many cases where a large organization send a finance person to a vertical in a the name of the bank is Standard Chartered Bank, and that particular person, she identified that there is a 15% delay in a particular process, which actually translates into a 2 million revenue loss. So after spending 6 months, she understood the problem, she figured it out, and as a part of a GCC, she figured out, they solved the utilization of time, they solved the problem, they are now utilizing the time in a better way, and they can come up with a very good ROI by collaborating each and every department into a similar platform. So yes, cross-functional experience, collaboration is very much required. So without that, GCC will not perform at its best.
Thank you so much. This actually puts this thought into, like, when you talk about GCC and think about GCC, and the face of GCC itself, we'll all believe the fact that this is a wonderful marriage between brilliant minds and technology. And both of them go hand in hand, and both of them complement each other. And when you talk about GCC at a leadership level and policy making level, so the decision making is being fed by some inputs from the technology side, from wisdom from the human side. So that opens the door of a risk mitigation, where you venture into an arena where you need to evaluate the inputs given by the technology, whether they're right or wrong or in right direction. What kind of modeling, being a leader or GCC, we can do within ourselves so that we can stay floating and we can stay to the time? Mr. Ahmed.
Thank you. Well, I think there are two distinct aspects of the question that you have put on. One is in terms of the model part of it, and the one is in terms of the leadership challenges. I think one area which my co-panelists just used is in terms of getting a cross-domain understanding. Now, generally we accountants are very reluctant to go beyond our comfort zone, right? Including me. And for example, if I ask you a question that classically, starting from 1930, we have been using a definition of what is a direct cost. And we will tell everybody, as if it's from a gospel truth, that the direct cost is a cost that moves with production, right? And yes, I have passed my examination by saying that. Do we have another tool today? Has it ever occurred to us of running a statistical technique on the last 10 years' value and trying to see that the cost we consider as a direct cost, are they actually moving or they're components of it? Now this requires a part of technology, and more than the technology, my willingness to use the cross-domain tools that are available. And there are plenty of them. There are absolutely plenty of them. And they're very, very easy to use. In fact, how many of us have ever thought of taking my data output from Excel, running it outside the Excel for a further processing, and giving it back to Excel and create my report, right? How many of us have ever thought of trying to get an audit report read into an Excel file and search for a list of negative words? If I'm looking for a qualified statement, I would do that. I would automate that process. It will give me a list in a jiffy. Again, learning that how to do it in Excel is easier than driving up the mindset that I will do that. Coming to the modeling part of it, I think it's easier than learning driving today. The book we referred to, which is doing very well globally, is meant for professionals, and we're telling them, I don't want you to be a coder. Why would I want this wonderful group of people to learn coding? There are tools which will give you that output as long as you know how to define it. So I think in these two aspects, first is the zeal to do that. Suprakash used the word repeatedly, curiosity. You use the word risk. So the first thing which came to my mind was the curiosity killed the cat. But again, I remembered that a cat is supposed to have 9 lives. So you can continue remaining curious up to 8 times That's your risk appetite. And I'm very sure you will hit the jackpot by that 8th time. If you do not, then stop being curious. Because that's all you are left with, one more life. So understanding that would be a challenge that the leadership must face. Yes, please.
Thank you so much, Arif sir. And when you think about GCC and its delivery with respect to relevance, nobody talks about whether you have delivered best or not. Everybody expects the excellence. And the entire ecosystem GCC is ever evolving. In that, how you categorize innovation as an element within the GCC at a scale of 10, and how you place yourself that you stay relevant with the innovation within the GCC and you cope up with the innovation, what is happening around the GCC outside, so that you stay relevant to the ecosystem itself.
Yeah, so exciting question. So, operational excellence without innovation is sometime irrelevant. Okay, so we are doing operations related work, but we are not doing innovations. So we are not, moving ahead. So we have to work on the innovations. We have to use the tools that can reduce our repetitive work. Okay, we have to rely on all the new age features, and on top of that, what we need to do is that since we are getting enough bandwidth from saving bandwidth from repetitive work, so that we have to use for the analytical work, to provide the analytical insights. So when GCC will start providing, along with the operational delivery, with financial insights, with business insights, so they'll automatically scale up. They'll automatically, grow. They'll automatically provide, they'll automatically go beyond an extra leg. So they will become more relevant for the organizations, and that's how that innovation has to be there in the system, in the culture, because without innovations, we automatically disrupt. So one important thing is that disrupt before you are getting disrupted. Okay, so to do that, we have to keep working on the innovations and see that how we can give additional informations, give insights, so that business will get more ROI. And by doing so, GCC will obviously provide their importance, substantiate their importance, and it will grow. So that is one of the most important thing, that we don't need to forget the innovation part by doing the operational work.
Okay, innovations and the tomorrow both evolves, and nobody stays with today. And sir, the most challenging part of being a GCC, either you can choose to work with a particular industry segment, or you be the center stage and work with different industry segments. The choice is, of course, ours, the GCC. But in that, how you see that to ensure that reskilling your talent so that they stay relevant across the board, and sustaining that talent over the period of time. So in that segment, how you space yourself, and what advice you'll give to us that we can stay relevant in the entire ecosystem?
Well, advice I can't. I can maximum tell you what I try to do. One thing over the years of working in India and outside, what I have realized, that talent is a very, very perishable commodity, right? It needs refrigeration. It needs to be preserved. And in order to preserve the talent, we need to challenge it. We continuously need to pose new challenges to our mind. As a long back I saw a wonderful poster, it said that your mind is like a parachute. It works only when it's open. So whether I would like to tackle a problem of a specific industry, or I would like to tackle a generic problem which can be applied in every industry, would perhaps depend on that genesis of that particular problem. For example, for a machine learning tool, the way a data file is presented and the way an image file is presented, processing-wise, there's not much of a difference. Analyzing the output and coming to a conclusion, that logic is different. So, if I am trying to become a data scientist or a person who would like to analyze data points, what does the data carry forward is a criteria which I'm not bothered about. I'm bothered about creating the data, clustering the data, and giving back the clusters to the domain user who would interpret them. If I am the domain expert, in that case I need to understand how the data is processed and that comes to us. For example, we have a tool of clustering. And in case of a clustering, I must understand the basis in which the clustering is being made. Because if I change that particular basis of clustering, my clusters will change. So if I'm advising a marketing person, my definition of clustering would be quite different than if I'm trying to do a prognosis of a disease. In that case, the logic of the clustering will be quite a bit different. And naturally, all of us will not be able to procure all the knowledges. So what I always try to say and propagate, I say that look at the question carefully, read the question carefully. In most of the cases, the answer is hidden within that question. The question exactly would tell you what route I should take, how we should logically think to arrive at the solution that that particular question demands, right? So as I said, that in this particular, against this particular question, the choice is ours. Yes, please.
You want to say? Yes.
Yeah. So whenever we are saying that, how we can, scale up the resources, one of the skill that I always want to focus on the meta skill. Now the meta skill is what, learn fast, unlearn faster, connect the other domain, and meta skill is think and thinking, and it gives the muscle to the leaders when they work, when the rule book disappears. So meta skill is one of the skills that is really, really relevant, and we should focus on that in the new age of the environment. So that is what I want to share.
Because when you said the rule book, it brought me the nostalgic statement, debit the giver, credit the receiver. And the world has slowly transited from dual leg accounting to three-leg accounting. And when we talk about this transition of accounting itself, and being all of us as CA fraternity members, we think of GCC, building of GCC from the accounting itself, and then scaling it up. So in that process, and if I couple this question with what is happening post-COVID, and with respect to business continuity plans, maybe prior to COVID, business continuity plans stayed for a few decades, but nowadays the life cycle of business continuity plan has already gone down. So for a GCC, I put this question, both of you, as a closing remark. What is the key mantra for being a global GCC, being a sustainable GCC, and a GCC which is relevant for the time to come? First, I'll go to Mr. Arif, then.
Right. I think this answer was given to us long back. In our Upanishads, we have been advised to keep walking, to progress continuously. Much later, when Darwin spoke about the survival of the fittest, he did not mean the strongest. He meant fittest. Who's fit? Who can adapt? That's why dinosaurs are dead. And the nearest relative of dinosaurs are my house lizards. They're still alive because they could adapt. When everything will go down in the world, if there's a nuclear holocaust, the only animal, the only life which will surviving are the cockroaches, because they can adapt. So the answer to that is from great old Indian wisdom as well as modern science, which validated and said, be adaptive in your knowledge, in your application, in your learning, in whatever we do. That adaptation is a necessary condition for survival and perhaps the only mitigant against a massive disruption.
Over to
Yeah. So I already uttered this word, disrupt before you are getting disrupted. If you see from where I'm just taking from where you close your earlier questions, that the life cycle of the industries. If we go back to 1950 or that time, we see that the life cycle of the organizations are long. Okay, but the organizations that are ruling today, that those organizations were not there 15 years back. So the life cycle of the industries, of the companies, large companies, are very short nowadays. So how I can stay relevant, and how much innovations I am doing, that is the most important thing. And again, in order to do so, I keep on working on the innovations. I have to stay relevant. I have to think about my business numbers. And for a GCC, how I'm telling the story. Okay, so I'm a very good finance professional. I have a lot of knowledge about the DCF. I am presenting something to the board with a long 50 deck. Okay, the board members will feel sleepy. Okay, but if I am giving a small story, so this is the you can achieve 500 crore, and you have to invest this. And this is the hardest way. You can achieve 2,000 crore, but you have to this. So when I am giving the alternative models and also the problems, so those, how I'm saving the times and how I'm utilizing the time to take the decisions. So this is one of the key mantra for GCC, how I am giving the realistic information in a storytelling way to the board members, to the stakeholder, so they can take the fast decisions. And nowadays, again, there are so much development in AI. There are, you can integrate your social media, your informations about your, various platforms. You have to integrate those informations. I remember one of the fantastic business case that, a platform's telling that, Southwest, there can be a lot of demand of your carbonized drinking water because of the heat wave. So one company took that advantage. They, instead of spending huge amount of storage in a particular segment, they transfer the stock over there. So when the demand spike, they have a lot of stock that can be used, that can be boost your revenue. So this is how you have to take the decisions with using a lot of information available today, and make GCC relevant, scale up, and make bigger on a day by day.
Thank you so much, both the gentlemen. With this, we are concluding this panel. Hope with the insights of this brilliant two minds, we can build up a GCC which is sustainable with reskilling, which creates a story to aspire for and inspire a generation. Thank you so much.
Thank you, CFB Suranjan Sutar for context setting, and many thanks to both the other panelists, Mr. Suprakash Das as well as CA Dr. Arif Ahmed for set the ball rolling and given a overview on the building global leaders through skills, talent, and GCC ecosystem. A big round of applause for the panelists. Thank you, sir. May I request CA Mayur Agarwal to please carry on the next session.